How to light a face in a scene that really makes an impact. Hello everybody, my name is Marco Bagnoli, I'm a cinematographer. Today I'm going to show you a commercial where we have a lot of portrait shots, faces, moments, very intense. But the question is, how do we light a face for different situations? How can we hit exactly the mood that we want? And how do we transfer this emotion back to the audience? After watching this video, you should be able to shoot something like this. So this is the first image we're looking at. And the first thing you probably notice is that it looks very, very good. We have this little bit of orange and teal feel with this very warm skin tones and cold background. And overall, the whole face, the lighting really pops and feels three-dimensional. So how do we work our way to this look? Let's start. First thing is always we start with the composition. This is a situation a few moments before. She was in a fighting scenario, karate or something in this direction, and she won. And now we need this hero frame. Hero frames are most of the time a little bit low angle because this makes the character a little bit bigger and more viewful for the audience. And also what you notice is we have this practicals, ceiling lamps, and they have very distinguished leading lines. We always search in a situation like this for leading lines because now our focus should be to 100% on the actor. So when you have elements where you can put your character, that every line in this image leads to a face, it feels much more energetic and much more controlled. Here's the wide shot situation where I told you before, but we come to it later. I just wanted to show you how everything was settled out in the scene and how we came to this close-up shot. The first things we need to decide is where is the light actually coming from? Because we look at the image, we see, okay, we have lights at the ceiling, so there should always come light from this direction. As you can see, we have really nice hair light that separates her from the background and also just a little bit around her neck and her shoulders. So the different ways how we can do a situation like this. First thing I would always do when you don't light the background extra and you just want to keep the ambience light, set your camera, set your exposure exactly like how you want the background, how dark you want it to be. When we set this, then you drop your actor in and then you start lighting the face. Because most of the time when you darker the room, the person and face also should be really dark. So first thing, there are actually several ways that you can do. Some people start with the key light, some with the backlight. It depends on the situation. Situation like this, I think I would go for the backlight first because that's the most natural light in the situation. So imagine her being completely into shadows and then I would do something like a GVM Z200B zipline light. It's just a small light carpet light where you can put in small and tight places with a grid, and I like this wider form factor because back in the day we only light somehow one shoulder. So when the key light is from the side, we light this shoulder. But sometimes it doesn't look as good. It doesn't even make sense most of the time. So we tend to use a wider light. So in my opinion, I like to do it and hit her whole silhouette so that she gets a small little halo around her, which makes everything pop a little bit. Maybe a little bit of promise 1/8 into your camera lens so that we get a little bit of more glow. And I think that looks for a situation like this very natural and very polished. So the key light. Key light is one or the most important thing. And you have to think about what are the steps of the key light. First things you want to know, light direction. Should it be very centered to the face? Should it be a little bit more from the side? Should it be half lit? So these are first things we want to do. In this situation, this looks more like not beauty, but not Rembrandt. It's something in between that area. Because we can see we have just a little nose shadow, so the light is very frontal, it's very high and on a 45-degree angle. You can always think about light as masks or the beauty mask. You know, that's what a lot of people do for their skin. Just imagine a flat white paper and you throw it on someone's face and it gets the form of the face. This is what light does. So always have to think about when I put the light here, there's imaginary white paper hitting the face and just wraps around the face. And that's what's happening here. That is how I know that the light should be someone around here in this angle. Because I know light always acts like a big white wall of paper that hits a person. So this was the first thing. Second, you have to think about softness of the light. Softness means how big is the roll off of the light. Do I want hard light? Do I want soft light? It all depends on the mood and the situation. Here, they've gone for a middle way. This looks for me just like a bigger softbox light. So they didn't put here a big 6x6, 8x L, 12x12 butterfly for the most soft light. No, it looks very round, very soft. Can most of the time see it actually in their eye, that there's a round source that's hitting her face. So that's something like a light dome 150 or so would be perfect for this, even a little bit smaller. It depends on the situation. You can experience with the look what fits your emotion the best, but I think this is a medium big source, not that crazy big. Then another nice thing that people add to their faces, key light is not everything. You can actually even form the face a bit more, and that's with a kicker. You can actually see we have this very soft key, very soft, so medium soft key, and then people think about it, somehow I need some edge, a little bit more punch to the face. So this is the moment we can actually use something like this light again, in GVM 200, and just from the side and get a little bit more punch from the side. So we have a transition from hard to soft, and it forms the face a little bit more. Most people call this light a kicker. So when you say to the gaffer, they know what they have to do. When you say kicker, they should probably know it. What's also important is that you add this light to an angle. She has her chin very up, but you want to keep that shadow on her throat, because when you have too much light here, the face becomes very flat and would not pop that much out. So try to keep that shadow under her chin. After all that, the shot would be done. What I don't like most of the time, I try to reduce, but it's most of the time not possible. This light shimmering a little bit into her face. I don't know, sometimes I have the feeling that it doesn't look too clean, but here I think it's a nice addition because it's very cold, and because we have this orange teal feeling, this lights and skin really mixed nice together. So I don't think it's bad. So I don't think it's bad at all. It's a beautiful shot, but you know what I mean, what I, in my personal work, would probably do or try to avoid most of the time. But you also have to understand this look overall doesn't only come from lighting. This is clearly a big word of color grading, where you mask a little bit of everything, put this down, add a little bit more sharpness here, a little bit more light, add a huge vignette, make the background with the power mask, depth map darker. So don't ever think, because you see a lot of behind the scenes footage where they do crazy lighting setup, or you sometimes do it by yourself, where you did everything exactly that you see on a movie, but it looks so much different, because end of the day, we just do the canva, but the painting does the colorist at the end of the day. And this is where you get this last 10% that a lot of people miss. This is another scene from the commercial. As you can see now, we have this very intimate close-up of her face from the side, and we have this really nice parallax of the bokeh in the background. So this is clearly a car scene. Go here to the still frame, and what they did here is, when you have such a low-key dark look, where, as you can see, there is no detail in all. Here is just a little bit, and you don't always have to keep every single information into your image. When you want to crush the blacks at some time because it suits your story, do it. Because in this situation, as you can see, it doesn't look bad. Actually, it really helps settle the mood. To light a scene like this is very easy, because you just need a small light source. Something like a small Astera light would be enough, and try to, when you film from the side, you really have to light frontal, so that the light, as I told you before, just comes like a mask and wraps around the face. Just have this nice eye light, and the light really stops at this position, because it's not that soft. That's actually really hard source, and it just sells the mood. We set everything very cool, white balance, in combination with the bokeh in the background, which you can also easily simulate it. Just use 2 or 3 small lights, put it way in the background, just turn it on 2, 3, 5%, and then you can make a handheld move and you get this nice parallax. So when you don't always have, you probably know the situation, you want a shot like this in a car and there is no information in the background, just throw them by yourself. You can also use something like an MC light or some of these torches, just somehow a light source, a bulb, and just do it somewhere with a battery far in the background and you get a similar look. Now, what's interesting about this shot, that's a total different situation, but the actual light setup is pretty similar with just a little bit of differences. As you can see, we still have a nice key light, but now the exposure is a lot lower. It's a bit softer. As you can see, the shadow of her nose is a little bit more diffused. So probably they added another, or do when you have a big softbox like an 150, you can just throw in frost frame in between to double diffuse the light a bit so that you get a little bit more wrap, because now we are a bit more from the side. And as you can see, what they also did, because the light comes very evenly, just put somehow a bounce board in here to fill in the shadows a little bit more. But it's not much, because what I try to avoid most of the time is two lights that fight against each other. When you do the bounce exactly on the opposite, so that you get two eye shadows or two nose shadows, and that just looks very unpleasant. So most of the I try to bounce also from the same side where the key comes a bit in this direction, so that we just bounce another light into it to extend the wrap a little bit more. But what you actually see here perfectly is the kicker light. Just adds another dimension to the face, because without this light we only would have, I overpainted for you just a bit. It only would look like this was this very nice cinematic dark mood. But for this situation where maybe another car is coming or something like this kicker really defines the face a bit more. And next thing what's interesting about the shot is no edge light anymore. Don't need edge light in every situation when there's no motivation. Here you can actually see the background is totally dark. So when there would be a wide shot with a street lamp in the background or so, then you can add a backlight. But most of the time it actually looks better without, because it's much more natural. A backlight is actually not something you see outside the world most of the time, that a light is perfectly placed. Someone gets a light into their back of their head. So we always choose to put the person into a position where actually the background is a little brighter, like here, so that we can create separation with this technique. Here's another close-up of a man, and now we're going more for the top light. This is a situation where the light clearly comes from above. Can see it because the nose shadow goes this direction, also the eye shadows. And there's some things you have to think about when you're doing a top shot like this. Your eye sockets really get dark. So sometimes when you do it, there's no detail at all, like here. So you try to feather the light a bit. So you don't put the person actually directly under the light, just shift it a bit forward, that you have a little softer wrap that goes into his face. Also, you can here see the light also in his eyes, which also looks like a bit more wider light that they used as a top light. And here again, in top light, most of the time don't need an edge light, because it wraps around his head, and then you have a little bit of an edge light. And what you have to do most of the time, again, add a little bounce. Just bounce board around here to just fill in the shadows. It depends on the ambience of the room, because in a situation like this where it's very, very dark, it can happen that you see nothing anymore. Even on darker things, on darker skins, it becomes more problematic. So always keep in mind, top shot, you need a bounce board to add a little bit more fill into the shadows. So if you enjoyed this video, I really would appreciate subscription from you. My name is Marco Bagnoli, and see you next time.